I think there's a season for both.
Hmm.
So I think that prior to now, my season, and I talked about this on a previous podcast, my season wasn't about me. And so I think it's important that all of us go through seasons and we acknowledge that they're not about us in that season. And so in that season, that's when you're learning, that's when you're exposing yourself to new things, that's when you're helping other people and you're paying attention. And then you have a season where it needs to be about you because you've done what you can do for other people and now you need to do for yourself. So I think it's important to identify where you're at and just paying attention to see when that season is over, because then after the season where you're worried about you, you may go back into a season where now you're helping someone else or you're needing to learn for the next season that you're going to be in that's about you. It's not always about you.
How do you know what season that you're in?
Get around those obstacles and make room to create opportunities. You are listening to the Around the Way podcast. And now, your hosts, Kyle King and Kiana Williams.
Welcome to another episode of Around the Way podcast, where we help you get around your obstacles and find a way to redesign your life. This is a special edition. Kiana is back in the studio. How you feeling?
It's so different, when you take, because, the way that we recorded was like, we spent a lot of time in here. So now I'm back. Different hair.
Different hair. I feel like it's funny, man, because like Greg was talking about, when you cut your hair, there's two completely polar different people, right? Mm-hmm. There's either like the level up like Rihanna or the, I guess, level down like Britney Spears.
Yeah.
What would you, I guess, categorize this season as? With the new hair, with the new look, with the new vision, with everything that you're doing?
So I believe that for me, I guess if I were to categorize it, this is about to be a harvest. And for me, hair was always something that I was very protective over my hair. Like, you'd be like, why don't you just have somebody do your hair? I'm like, nobody does my hair. Like, I do my hair. Exactly. I cut it. I do whatever needs to be done. I do it.
It's the control issue.
No, but I feel like, and it's so crazy because I literally had the same lady cut my hair and color it that did it in middle school. I had to get my hair cut because it was damaged. My hair can't take relaxers. So in middle school, I got my hair cut in like 6th grade, and it wasn't cool back then. Like, the shortcut was not cool, and I was so upset about it and devastated over it. And so it was like sort of serendipitous. I had the exact same woman that cut it then when I was so upset. And like my mom was like, you have to get your hair cut because it's like falling out. And so now I chose to have her cut it again and color it and everything. And so it was like different. So it was like, this was my choice this time to do it. And so essentially this is the season of me taking control of my life and my circumstances and creating, like, I'm finally able to see the things that I've been working for. So it's good.
There's two different types of thought process.
Mm-hmm.
One is, I have this vision and all of my activity is aligning with this vision. And two, like the perspective that you just gave, I'm finally taking control of the things, that I want, right? When you think about these two different perspectives, and when you think about somebody listening right now, what would you recommend the best perspective for them to have?
My answer is probably going to be different than what you think. I think there's a season for both. So I think that prior to now, my season, and I talked about this on a previous podcast, my season wasn't about me. And so I think it's important that all of us go through seasons and we acknowledge that they're not about us in that season. And so in that season, that's when you're learning, that's when you're exposing yourself to new things, that's when you're helping other people and you're paying attention. And then you have a season where it needs to be about you. Because you've done what you can do for other people and now you need to do for yourself. So I think it's important to identify where you're at and just paying attention to see when that season is over, because then after the season where you're worried about you, you may go back into a season where now you're helping someone else or you're needing to learn for the next season that you're going to be in that's about you. It's not always about you.
How do you know what season that you're in? Because I think a lot of times we may be in the season where we feel like it's the season to help somebody else. But it may be the season that we really need to accelerate in our own lives. So how do you determine which season it is? It's kind of like that person that maybe is in a relationship where it's like, hey, I feel like I need to be helping this person, but them not helping themselves is really not really giving them the opportunity of really helping that other person to their best ability. So how do you know which season that you're in?
For me, God told me, and I didn't have a choice. So it was, I wanted to be in a season of helping and pouring and pouring. And then God made it so that the person I was pouring into didn't want me around. And so then it was, you have to.
How'd that make you feel?
It feels like betrayal is what it feels like. It's like I'm investing so much into someone that can't see my value. And when you feel like that, though, it makes you move. And so I think a lot of times we see, okay, we got fired from this job. This person, they cheated on us, or they out with somebody else, or our family members, they're saying hurtful things to us and we're taking it personal. Yes, there is some personal aspect to that. However, that could be God making you uncomfortable, because in any other circumstance, maybe you wouldn't have moved, and I wouldn't have.
I heard once that it takes 2 hands to clap, it takes 2 feet to dance, and it takes 2 people in a relationship.
It does.
And I think a lot of times we always look at things happening to us, like this person cheated on me, this person didn't choose me, my family says these things about me, and all of this is happening to me. Right? Talk to us about the importance of also taking accountability for the things that you contributed to, whether it be the relationship or just the current circumstance within your life.
I think that there's great beauty in being able to help other people, but I think that you have to acknowledge that that comes at a cost. When we think about opportunity cost, it's the cost of doing something else. So in the season where you are helping someone, you have to be okay with the fact that that means that you may be stagnant in that season. And it feels good when it's like, okay, I'm doing that now, and then they'll look out for me in the end, and then like we'll both flourish at some point, but it doesn't always turn out that way. So then in those situations, you have to create closure for that season on your own sometimes, because you can't always get it from the other person, but then be okay with like pivoting and saying, okay, I did what I could do there. I knew that that was an outcome that might have happened. Like for any situation or any decision that you're about to make, before you make that decision, make sure that you're okay with worst case scenario. And worst case scenario in some situations, maybe worst case scenario sometimes is that everything is like, it stays how it is. Sometimes it's that you backtrack. Sometimes there isn't a worst case scenario. Like there's only benefits to what you do, but there's always a situation, there's a possibility that you're not going to get the outcome that you want, and you need to be okay with that too. What
was your worst case scenario in that season?
Worst case scenario for me was what happened. I think for me, and you know this, it's always important to me to feel like I'm being chosen, because I feel like a lot of times I end up having to choose myself. And I feel like that's what happened, was that I wasn't chosen in the way that I would have wanted, and I had to choose myself.
Anybody that's listening right now that is in a season that isn't choosing them, is with a person that isn't choosing them, is at a job that isn't choosing them or within their best interest, what would be your words to that person?
I think you need to define what it is that you want. I think that a lot of times, me in particular, I'm very patient. And I'm compassionate. For people like that, you put aside what you want, like the expectations, the boundaries, all those things that you want, in favor of being there, supporting, seeing it through, like, gotta see it through, my boy, like that, like, gotta see it through. And so I think in those situations, you have to keep at the forefront what your big picture is. And you need to be real, like super real, hurtfully real with yourself. Is the situation that you're in conducive for the big picture? And then also, if it's dealing with a person, do they want to contribute to the big picture? Not can they, do they want to? Are they willing? Are they able to?
I think that's a big thought, right? That's a really good perspective. Do they want to be there, right? I even think about like sports and, players getting traded to other teams, and, LeBron recruits everybody to his team. But there are certain players that have interviewed that said, hey, LeBron has wanted me to be on that championship team that won, but I didn't want to do it like that. Or I didn't want to be there, right? And I saw an exercise once, somebody who went through a really bad breakup, and they wrote a letter to that person, and they kind of just released everything. If you were to communicate a letter to whether it's that person that hurt you, whether it's that opportunity that hurt you, or just that last season, what were the things that you would be able to say to it?
I think ultimately, I kind of do this. So I think the question for me has always been, who would you want to be standing next to when all of your dreams come true? And understanding that maybe it is me, but maybe the season that I wanted it to be me, it wasn't that season. So for that person, I would just want them to understand that I do love them still, even still. That I understand that things don't always go as planned, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that the end goal changes, rather that the journey to get there may be different than what we thought. And then I've heard this lately, you either take the risk or you lose the chance. So we all have choices, and sometimes we do make mistakes. But if you want the opportunity, you have to take the risk.
How do you feel right now?
I feel like this was therapeutic. How do you feel? You look wet-eyed.
No. I feel like it's a beautiful thing. And anybody that's listening right now, you have to be able to communicate from your heart. I think a lot of times we speak from our heads. Right?
Yeah.
We're trying to find the perfect words, kind of like how you even walk through your feelings just now. In person, I think that is admirable, right? And I think a lot of people aren't willing to step up or stand up or have courage enough to really walk through their feelings. And maybe for two reasons. One, they haven't really processed it. They're not self-aware and really being able to go through their feelings. Or two, maybe they just fear, I guess, the outcome of what that looks like.
And the vulnerability.
Like, what do you think it is?
I think vulnerability is uncomfortable. Like, it feels, and then like, when you open yourself up, you have the opportunity to get rejected or to be shut down. I feel like we've all been in situations like that where we say something and it took us a lot to say it. Yeah. And then the other person like has nothing to say. It's like, well, what do you think?
No, we was just talking about.
Right. What do you think? Nothing. I was just listening. You idiot. I just said a whole lot. You have absolutely nothing to say. You were just listening.
You wasn't listening.
Was the thought just going in your head and then like
you heard
out?
what I was saying, but you wasn't listening.
Yeah, because if you listen to what I said, you should have something to say. And so I think that's what a lot of people fear, is like not feeling, seen, understood, valued, when they communicate from a vulnerable place.
I feel like you grew up, we grew up very similarly.
Yeah.
Very structured, very matter of fact parents that, it's interesting because we both grew up and people around us thought we were privileged.
Yeah.
Thought we were wealthy. But we did a great job of really being able to create this image, but there were a lot of challenges within the household. When you think about who you are becoming in this season of your harvest, what is one challenge that you will not recreate as you create your family?
Communication is big for me. I think and I understand it, even though I don't have children yet. I think it's difficult to balance sometimes disrespect and like communicating how I feel.
What do you mean?
I think that, kids, sometimes them saying how they feel can come off a little disrespectful or ungrateful or, those kinds of things. And I think I want to be able to empower my children to be able to communicate and say things and let me know how they feel, because I think it's important to teach children how to communicate, identify their feelings, but in a respectful way. Like, I'm still your mama,
exactly.
So I think that communication is so important, being able to have conversations and not be yelling, not be cursing, not be, dismissive of the other person's feeling, especially for children. I think a lot of times if you talk to children, they feel like nobody listens to them. Mm-hmm. And so I want my children to feel like they're being listened to, but they still need to respect me.
No, that definitely makes sense. I think a lot of people know you as kind of like the baggage coach or the singer or the creative or the author, all of these different things. But what is something that you really are proud of that you are, that no one really recognizes?
I think that they don't recognize.
That's a first.
That's tough because I feel like the things that I want people to know are the things that they know about me. I feel like people only know what I want them to know. But
that's the question. What do you know that people don't, that you don't want them to?
You said, what am I proud of that people don't know? Yeah. You're trying to switch it up.
What aren't you proud of then?
Well, this is not super deep, but you know this. I'm a little bit crazy, but people don't know that.
That's episode 3.
I'm a little bit crazy, which is cool. I think I say this a lot. I think smart people have the ability to, one, be manipulative, two, I guess it's still manipulative. They're good at figuring stuff out. Mm-hmm. And you don't know that I figured it out until I'm ready to act on it, which may not be immediately after I figure it out. That's like a good thing and a bad thing.
No, that's definitely a bad thing.
It's a bad thing when it affects you.
It's not, yeah. It's a good thing when it's on your side. It's a bad thing, I guess.
On somebody else's, yeah. Yeah, so I think that's one thing that people don't know. I think people perceive me some people perceive me as very sweet and like very like, okay, she has no, like she never gets out of character. I think my out of character is still me. You know, I say that all the time. You don't get out of character. Mm. Certain situations, people, whatever, have the ability to reveal sides of you that you may not like.
I don't think people are crazy. I don't. I'm reading this book right now. Damn, what's the name of the book?
What's the name of the book?
By Chris Voss.
Which is called Cheating.
Never Split the Difference. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And he was an FBI negotiator, 2 decades, and he never lost somebody that he was negotiating for. Super dope book. And in the book, it talks about how Harvard and MIT and all these schools that were world-renowned schools that were teaching students about the art of negotiation. Mm-hmm. They were always looking at it the wrong way. Okay. And they were looking at it from the perspective of like mathematics and statistics and all of these like acronyms, and we're going to follow it by the book. Mm-hmm. And through Chris Voss, and why he was so successful is because he tapped in to empathy by really understanding basic human psychology and really being able to build rapport and build relationships with with these people, from terrorists to kidnappers to ransom to people that are getting ready to mass murder people, all these different things. Mm-hmm. And why I'm wrapping around it, he was like, at the core of every being, we're animals, right? We're animalistic, and we have emotions, and we operate from a place of emotion. We make decisions from a place of emotion, and everything comes down to, I want. Mm-hmm. Like, I want this, or I want to be in this relationship. I want to get married. I want this car. I want this job. I want to be able to negotiate this deal. I want to be featured on this. So everything that we do is based upon the things that we want. Right. And when an animal doesn't get what it wants, it goes crazy, or it finds other means to be able to get what it wants. Mm-hmm. So when we think about this, I guess, concept of like, I'm crazy, or like I got a crazy side, no, it's just like it goes really down to our basic fundamentals of being a human.
That's interesting.
And it's a really interesting book because it talks about like, how do you really get what you want? It's kind of going on your point, like very intellectual people know how to manipulate things to be able to get what they want. And one of the pieces in the book is pretty much the best way to get what you want from a person is to not give them anything they want.
Right. Right. But I know that.
It's interesting. It's
It's true. And then you don't even think about it like that. But that's literally
crazy.
It's the truth.
It's kind of the same on sales calls for me. It's kind of like shout out to Myron Golden, one of my mentors, and he was saying like when you're on a call with somebody or in negotiations, you have to disconnect yourself from the sale. Like immediately. So when you get to numbers, it's like, regardless if you buy this or not, my business is going to be fine. So it's kind of like, he always says like, it's up to you. It's if this works for your family, your business and your circumstance, and that's fine. If not, then, good luck with everything. And then he gets off the phone. And it's crazy because it's kind of like, I was taught so much to be aggressive, like sales objections. Like, why don't you want this? But it's kind of like, nah, like, I'm going to back up.
In general, you don't have to convince people to do things that they want to do. So I think a lot of times we be trying to like beg somebody or like force them or whatever to doing something that they don't really want to do. You learn what you actually want when the person backs off, and then you get to sit and think, what do I actually want to do? And I think decisions are more long lasting when you make the decision without any influence. So it's like you said with the sales call, it's like, okay, while I'm on the phone with the person, I'm clouded by what they're saying and all these features and all this stuff. If they remove themselves, I've had situations, even like I said, this is a season of like me investing in myself always. So like I've been following certain people and like watching what they do. And then like months later, I'm like, I want to buy that course now. And it's not because I talked to the person or because whatever. I'm at a place now where their course, I thought about it because I've already been exposed to it. So I thought about it. I'm in this situation now where I realize that their course is a solution for me. So I go now to them to get the course. I think it's the same in relationships, even where it's like, okay, this person is telling you to do this, that, and the third. Well, what happens when they remove themselves? Now you get to decide, am I better how I am by myself? Am I better with what they bring to the table? I think a lot of us are continuing to try to convince someone, show them our worth, show them our value, all these things. At some point, you've shown them all that you can show. And so then it's up to them to see that that is valuable for where they are right now. And then they'll come.
That's cold. I was having a conversation with my dad yesterday about relationships as a whole. And I was like, yo, Pop, I'm Michael Jordan. Like literally, like that's how I honestly feel about myself.
That page.
That post, right?
Page, yeah.
And then I was like, I'm Michael Jordan, and I don't need another Michael on my team. I need a Scottie Pippen. I need a Dennis Rodman. I need a Phil Jackson. I need, other players around me. A Steve Kerr, right? And I think about a lot of people because if you think about Michael Jordan as a whole, I'm not sure if you followed, but he didn't win a championship the first 6 years that he was in the league. And at this time, he had the biggest deal with Nike, and he had all these endorsements. He was top of the world, but he could not win the championship. He got there multiple times, but he couldn't win until Scottie came because Scottie was the X factor. Scottie was talented. He was dope. But then what Michael was able to do through his maturity was able to grow Scottie up to being a championship player. And then Dennis Rodman came in. And Dennis Rodman was a GOAT. Like literally. Dennis Rodman was the player everybody wanted on their team. It was the friend that everybody needed in their relationships. He did all the dirty work. Dennis Rodman is the friend that when you're out and somebody cuts their eyes at you, like you ain't got to worry about it. Like Dennis got it. You know what I'm saying? But he was loyal to the team, and he did everything that he had to do. I think I saw a stat that he had 0 points, I think but 60 rebounds during one game. No points, but he had like 60 rebounds, I believe. But as you say that, I think about like, who's my Scottie, right? Who's my Dennis Rodman in my life? And we always have these conversations about the importance of relationships and environments. But do you believe that it's possible to have two Michael Jordans on the team? Or do you believe that you have to identify a role player to be able to then pull off the big win? Or are you categorizing yourself, and maybe you're the Dennis Rodman and you need a Michael?
I think multiple of those things could be true. I think that one, I don't think that our roles are static. I think that in different situations, you may be the Michael. In different situations, you may need to be the Scotty. Like, I think that's one of the things that I've seen even with my parents and their relationship. To be candid, my mom is much better at managing finances than my dad. However,
I definitely need a mic.
You do. However, it's still, she is, in other situations, and to my dad, he would want to be the Michael in all areas. That's how men are. Like, the ego wants you to be the Michael all the time in the household. But you need to identify where your strengths and where your weaknesses are, and then it may change. And so, I mean, ideally, maybe over time, if you were really like committed to being the Michael in finances and you're really not right now, maybe having a Scotty who is a Scotty in maybe other areas can step up and be Michael and maybe help you elevate to the level of a Michael so that now you can take over that responsibility.
I'm going to disagree with that.
What?
I'm going to disagree. There will never be another Michael Jordan, right? Because Michael Jordan is Michael Jordan.
Right.
Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Greek the Freak. These players are magical. Like, and even me being an ex-athlete, right? I put in a lot of hours. I definitely put 10,000 hours in. But I would have never been able to compete at that level. And it took years to really get to that realization. Like, I was a good player, good player, middle school, high school, would have been a great player in college if I, kept my act together. But I really feel like it doesn't matter sometimes the level of preparation that you go through. Sometimes you're just not that gifted.
Right.
Like even NBA players, like I'm sure some of them put in the same amount of work and hours and time as Kobe and LeBron and Mike. But y'all will never be at that level. Y'all don't have the athleticism. You don't have the build. Some people were just built to do certain things. So in a relationship, right, circling it back around, you have to identify what you are the Michael in, and you have to find another partner that can complement those skills. Mike couldn't have had another Mike on the team. There's only one ball to go around. LeBron can't go to a team where he's not the leader.
Right.
Kobe is taking 40 shots a game. Steph Curry's taking 40, 50 shots a game. So you have to play around that system, right? So when you think about it, and this is the interesting part when you talk about power couples, right? And a friend of mine, shout out to JP, he was like, do you want a relationship that, can this person, he asked me directly, he was like, can this person help you build an empire? Or can this person help you just have a good life?
Who was he talking about?
It doesn't matter.
I want to know who he's talking about.
He was like, can this person help you have a good life? Or can this person help you build an empire?
What was your answer?
And then I was like, it depends. And this is how I started. I was like, it depends on what an empire looks like.
That's a no.
And then that's
a no.
That's what his answer was. He was like, no, it's not like it depends. And no, he was like, it's either
yes
this
or no. Yeah.
Or it's either this. And then we went down like all of these different questions that he was asking me. He was like, bro, you're going to make either the wrong decision now or the right decision, but you won't recognize it until later.
Yeah.
And it goes back to your point about taking risk, but understanding, being able to kind of go through an analysis of your relationship, right? It may not be comfortable right now. It may not give you that sense of a glow right now, but how's it going to help you win the championship later?
Yeah. And I think it's good, even what you were saying about like your example, like Dennis Rodman with the rebounds and stuff like that. I think that you have to be just cognizant of, if Dennis Rodman's job is to, like you said, y'all out and he blocking whatever and whatever, that you as Michael are not then trying to say, oh no, Dennis, let this person in. Like, no, it's cool. It's cool. Let him do it. Yeah. Like, if you say that is his responsibility, then don't try to now sidestep him to let foolishness in.
That's good. That's good. Because I think a lot of times you have a role, but you step into somebody else's role, and then that's when the chaos starts.
Yeah.
Right? Or you have a plan. Yeah. It's kind of like you before a game, you watch film, you practice, you run through plays, and then you get on the field and you like, fuck it. like, we gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I want to do this today.
Yeah.
But it's like, you weren't prepared for it. So now the attacks that start to come, or the turnovers that start to happen, or people are now confused, it's because of your decision to be able to go off and kind of do your own thing versus following the plan that was already built out prior to you going into that game, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
When you think about one piece of advice that you need in this season, what is it?
Just like in any category. I guess it would be. Can I rephrase the question?
Yeah.
Okay, if I were to ask God something, if I could ask him anything right now and he could tell me, I would want him to verify that I see like point A, I know where I started, I know what point M, we're going to say point M, is. I want to make sure that I'm doing all the things in between that'll get me to point M.
What is the one area in your life where you're unsure of that is in between this process?
Why are you asking me questions like this? Can I be honest, or do I need to like you?
I figured that. I like how you walked around the first question that I asked about 20 minutes ago.
What was that?
Pretty much like hurt, or whatever the case may be.
What's the question?
It doesn't matter. We'll just keep it going.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. What about you?
What's the question? Because you like
the same
changed
question
the
you asked me. Something you need advice on right now.
Yeah.
And then if you could ask God something, what would it be?
So I woke up this morning and I was going through my finances, right? And I thought it would be like a really empowering like exercise, because shout out to George Achampong and Capital Wise for taking control of my finances. But it was very depressing. Like honestly, like honest to God, it was very depressing. The fact that my budget says that I'm spending $5,000 a month. It's the 9th month. That means $45,000 should have been spent. And we've done the best. Yo, financially, this is the best year in entrepreneurship I've ever had in my life. Honest to God. But I've spent.
How much?
Kiana, this year alone, I've spent $200,000.
On what?
I don't even know. Food.
Lunch dates,
just masterminds, $600 chefs, just stuff. It's over and over and over. Just stuff. And it's crazy because I don't even have anything to show for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like just stuff. If somebody needs money, just give them money. But I think about the next season, right? It's kind of like what advice would I need? Who do I need to become from a place of like discipline, from a place of like integrity, from a place of character, so that I can be able to embody what people see? George said to me years ago, he was like, it's the most beautiful feeling when how people see you, you are exactly that person.
Yeah.
Like you're exactly that person.
It's easy.
You're exactly the person that you want to be, and you're exactly the person that people perceive you to be. And there's a lot of holes. Like there's a lot of holes in my business, and we make a lot of money, which is great. And it kind of, I feel like money does two things. It gets you out of problems, or it creates more problems. It gets you out of problems, but at the same token, it can hide the problems that are in your business, right? So I think that is the biggest thing for me. It's kind of like I am patching up the holes. That's the season that I'm in. Patching up all the holes. Like picking up the glass. And somebody told me once, like when you break a glass.
Who told you that?
somebody very wise. When you're picking up glass, like let's say you drop a wine glass and you pick up the pieces. It's bigger pieces at the first time, and then you piece them together, and you could probably do it the first time. But if you keep dropping the same damn glass, over time it's going to get harder, because those broken pieces that were then put back together are going to be even more broken, and they're going to be smaller, and it'll never go back to its original form. So what I've learned is that sometimes you just got to throw that damn glass away.
That was not the solution.
No. Hear me. Sometimes you have to throw that glass away and be able to create a new glass with that same person.
That's true. Can I leave you with one more thing? I said that to someone once, and they said, I can't remember what culture it is. There is a culture in which when something breaks, they mend it back with gold.
Ooh.
So it becomes more valuable.
Who told you that?
It doesn't matter. It becomes more valuable every time the glass breaks because the time and the effort was put in to make it stronger than it was originally and more valuable.
Not as good as just really being able to find what that gold represents.
Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like, what does that gold represent in whether it's that relationship or that opportunity, whatever the case may be. So anybody who's listening, right? If you've broken something, if you've dropped the ball in a specific area, don't just throw away the glass. But if you are throwing away the glass, go get a gold glass or a steel glass next time, and build it back with that person. Or you can get all of the pieces and mend it back together with gold. And I need you to find like what culture that's from, because that's actually pretty cool. Did he tell you what culture it's from?
Why do you assume it's a man?
Just asking.
What is up with you? Close us out.
Close us out, man.
So this has been another amazing episode of the Around the Way podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you follow us on Instagram at Kiana L. Williams and
Kyle S. King.
We'll see you guys next time.
Later.